You're listening to Win Win, an entrepreneurial community with your host, Ben Wolf.
And welcome to the Win Win podcast. This is Ben Wolf, as always, your host. We're going to be learning from our guest today. Don't hide behind a policy. Lead with core values and core focus. We're going to see all about what that means. Here are lots of crazy examples, I'm sure, that a lot of us will relate to, most likely. And before we get into that, I want to give a little more introductory words about our guest today. He was a U.S. Navy officer and merchant mariner, spending over 30 years in the high-risk maritime industry. He has created and owned 3 successful businesses. He is currently a certified EOS implementer. He's the founder of the Launching Leaders Workshop for supervisors, which could be a good resource available at launchingleaders.com. I'll put that in the show description. And you can learn more about him at eosworldwide.com/Matt-Hahne. Hahne. See, because I have a member of my team named Matt Hahne, and so it's just going to mess me up. So anyway, EOS Worldwide /Matt-Hahne.
Appreciate it, Ben. Thanks.
Matt, welcome.
Oh, it's so good to be talking with you finally. A couple of busy guys taking some time on a Friday morning.
Yeah, no, this is good. This is good, and it's a great subject, and it's a really, really good subject. So I guess let's start off by giving people some context.
Sure.
In the sense of, like, what's your background?
Yeah.
Where did you come from that got us to this moment speaking on this topic?
Yeah, I've got a crazy background. Started, entrepreneurial dad up in Illinois. I grew up in Illinois. He was the typical serial entrepreneur, chronic workaholic. He had a string of LLCs like the dust cloud behind Pigpen in the Peanuts cartoon, right?
Oh, wow.
And yeah, one of his things was he had a butcher shop, and so we sold fresh cut meats on a South Side Chicago flea market on Saturday and Sunday mornings, which was pretty crazy. Learned cash flow real fast, but it was the only way that I could hang with my dad was showing him my entrepreneurial chops. So that's kind of how I got started.
Oh.
Like you mentioned, I found my way out to sea, went to a maritime college, spent some time both with the Navy and with the Merchant Marine, and kind of became the go-to guy for making quick decisions on very expensive projects, whether it was a project cargo shipment, something big and fancy and heavy that needed to get somewhere across the world, or it was a ship going aground in Waikiki Beach, Honolulu, or a cruise ship that ran out of power that just went dead in the middle of the ocean. Oh, call Matt, he'll know what to do. So eventually, a siren song of being my own boss got to me. I started my first side hustle, leveraged that into another business, leveraged that into a third business, and now Launching Leaders is actually going to be my 5th business. And I found EOS in my 3rd business, and it changed my life. I realized that you can have work-life balance. You can be a good boss. You can let everybody know what the heck you're thinking, and they can incorporate that into their everyday work. So I sold all 3 of the previous businesses, became a full-time EOS implementer right at the start of COVID. Loved my EOS journey, and now branching out to kind of give back. My passion project is Launching Leaders, and this topic about just really leading with context, not control, and getting rid of bad policies and just living your culture and letting that be the gatekeeper is just so big for me and so passionate for me. I can't wait to riff with you about it this morning.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it too. And when I hear a phrase like "don't hide behind a policy," that just makes me, it just screams at me that there's some like story or stories behind that. And I guess if you would share some of those stories or examples, a couple of those stories or examples, just to like make it concrete, like the problem. So when we see it in ourselves, we'll recognize it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this podcast is probably not going to make many attorneys or human resource specialists happy because they love creating policies. They love creating, let's add another paragraph to the employee handbook that says that, you shouldn't come to work naked. I don't think we need a policy that says don't come to work naked. I think we just need to hire people that know don't come to work naked. I mean, where do you want me to go? I got vacation policy, time time in, time out, timekeeper policy with a card. I mean, I was
Yeah, that comes up with people all the time. So I'm frustrated. People come in when they
yeah,
want, they leave when they want.
yeah,
We need to be more
yeah,
strict on this. Yeah, okay, let's start with that. I've heard that come up a million times.
yeah. Who cares? If they're getting the work done, they're getting the work done. So now it comes down to, are you really measuring what you need done? This comes back to some of these EOS tenets like the accountability chart and defining the key roles that you really want that person to be maniacally obsessed about every day. Create the function seat and then put the key roles in that function seat. So there's no question what they should be doing every day that they come into work, and then have some measurables. Please have some measurables that tell them that they know and there's no subjectiveness. They know and that they're getting their job done well. If their numbers are green, leave them alone.
Hmm. All right, let's cover some more. You mentioned before we started recording about expense
Oh, right.
policies.
My favorite, expense reports, right? Yeah. I mean, what if, just let's visualize for a minute, because I love visualizing, right? I love painting the picture. So I'm just thinking in my mind, what if we hired people that just knew spend the money as if it were your own, that just knew don't accept a gift that's out of the norm from a vendor, that just knew
Hmm.
I shouldn't be buying this luxury jewelry for my wife on the company credit card. So if you can get I mean, just honestly, truly, if you can get the core values right, if you can
Right.
get people that are like-minded, that share your beliefs, that really, truly, honestly, they know and what the expectations are, and you protect that fiercely at the gate on check-in. Don't hire people that need that. Here's a great example, Ben. In the industrial world, everybody's concerned about safety.
Mm-hmm.
Safety, safety is so important. We need a safety officer. I'm going to encourage all of you that are in the industrial space listening. Maybe you need to take a better look at safety as one of your core values, one of your tenets. And maybe you need to work on hiring people that only believe in self-preservation. You know, I wear a hard hat out in the field because I don't want my noggin to be pierced by a piece of falling steel. It's just who I am. I mean, I get it. So hire those people that get it, and then you don't need a gigantic safety policy that says wear a hard hat.
Right. Well, I mean, some of that stuff, what you're saying now reminds me, because you talk about we're going to share, because you shared it with me, the Netflix culture deck, the whole
Absolutely.
presentation.
Love
So
that thing.
we'll share this also. And, some of what you're saying before, like when you're talking about expenses, like that was all stuff that I read in the Netflix No Rules book also.
Same
So
thing. Yeah,
what,
same
so
thing.
why don't you talk about that? Like, what did you get from that book or Netflix or
Yeah, Yeah, I
what do
think the
you?
thing there is, it goes back to what I said earlier about, hire the people that you can trust with your money. Hire the people that you believe don't need to be told. Uh, don't add all of your personal mileage to the company. Spend the money as if it were your own,
Right.
right?
A one line
Spend the money
expense
as if
policy.
yeah. One of the things from Netflix, and you'll remember this is a very particular thing, is you can't make company personal calls at company time. You can't make personal copies at the office. And Netflix called it out. They said, "Hey, look, if it's an inconvenience or it's inefficient to do it elsewhere, just do it here." So if you got a kid that's got a softball game at night and you need to sign the parent, authorization or permission to play form, and the only way to do that, because you can't make a copy at work, is to leave work and go to a Kinko's or FedEx or Quick Copy and print it out and scan it and then come back to work. I
Right.
mean, come on. Let's be efficient at work. Let's not be stupid about policy. How am I doing on
Great. It's a
examples?
great example. Let me ask you this. We kind of glossed over, you talked about being a EOS implementer and getting into EOS. We didn't even explain what EOS is. Not everybody who's
Yeah,
listening
sure.
or watching this is aware of that. So we talked about, instead of hiding behind processes, leading with core values, core focus, and target
Yes,
market.
yes,
So
yes,
can you explain those concepts? These are, they're universal
yeah.
concepts, but they're explained a certain way by Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. Can you explain those concepts of EOS, core target,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
core focus
If you
values?
if you're listening instead of watching, Ben has behind him a couple of traction books written by Gino Wickman. Traction is the textbook on EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. In EOS, in EOS, which believes firmly in simplify, simplify, simplify. In EOS, we talk about three key tenets, core values, who you are in your heart of hearts, who you want to be surrounded by, timeless guiding principles, everyone in the company for forever. Core focus, because you're not the sun and you don't have unlimited energy all the time, you really need to focus your energy. So we create a focus by combining the purpose, the why behind the business, which is so important. Pull in a little bit of Daniel Pink, right? Drive, right? It's what drives your people. Purpose drives people. People don't drive people. Purposes do. So if we can get that why behind the business really dialed in perfectly and marry it with what you're the best at doing, that's a perfect place for a core focus. Jim Collins in the book Good to Great talks about a hedgehog concept. I think it's chapter 5, right? And the hedgehog concept is marrying three things: what you love to do, why, the purpose behind the business, what you're the best at doing, what you own in your marketplace, and what makes you a ton of money. So we think in the EOS, look, let's get that focus really dialed into the why behind the business and what you're the best at doing. If we can do that, that's going to help us provide us a filter for everything we do, including people. So then the next step is this core target or 10-year target, and that's where you're going. I argue with my clients all the time. I say, you're looking for a vision, mission statement. This is it. Core values, who you are, who you want to be surrounded by, timeless guiding principles for everyone in the company for forever. If you can get that right, and they truly understand the core focus, the why behind the business and what you're the best at doing, and they know where you're going, that's your corporate culture right there. Now, I'll give you an example. I've got a company in the wholesale restaurant equipment market, and they're great. Their EOS journey has been fantastic. They've learned a lot. They've got great core values and they've got a great core focus. One of their core values, and I'm probably paraphrasing a little bit here, so I hope they don't come and tackle me on this, but it's passion served with a side of compassion,
Mm-hmm.
right? Passion served with a side of commitment. Passion
Okay.
served with a side of commitment. And this is kind of their core value is all about. We're all about the food service industry. It's where we came from. It's who we love. It's who we support and serve. And then in the core focus, they talk about we solve the food service industry's problems with generational experience in, fitting the right equipment into the right place. I said, "Man, I love all of this." Just recently, they're growing and they hired a new accountant. And they love this guy. He fit their core values. Apparently, he didn't fit their core focus. He just didn't get it. He
Mm-hmm.
couldn't understand how anybody could be so excited about the food service industry. Now, anybody that's out there in the food service industry, they're all like, "How could you not get that?" But he just didn't get it. And he struggled with that. He's like, "Wait, I don't understand. Why would we have to go in and fix a sink on a Friday night at 8 o'clock. How is that? Why would we do that? That doesn't make any sense. They're like, you don't understand the food service industry, bro. We made that guarantee.
Hmm.
And so this was a tough call for them. They were like, wow, we just don't think this guy gets our core values, core focus. That first core value about the, passion served with a side of commitment, and then tying it to we solve the food service industry's problems.
Hmm.
He just didn't get it. Never will. And so they're helping him find the next best place for him to be.
Hmm. Wow. Now that's commitment,
Yeah.
right? When someone's good at
Yeah.
their job and they even match the other core values, that's quite a
Yeah.
commitment. What so bringing it back to this idea of over policying or over processing, um,
Yes.
why do we do that? Like, why does this need to be said that,
Yeah.
you know,
Because
why does it,
because we
why do we do this?
yeah, because this is the term that I think you love. We make a knee-jerk policy.
What's that? What is that?
A knee-jerk policy is some less less than core value employee that's probably no longer with the business even did something, and our
Mm,
lawyers and our HR personnel panicked and just for the sake of mitigating the situation, added something to the employee handbook and added
mhm,
something to the training manual and everything else.
mhm,
And when they did, when they did that, they didn't understand all of the repercussions of it, right? So ultimately, dress codes in schools are a great example of that, right?
mhm.
Hey, we had let's be honest. We had some really bad policy up until the 50s and 60s, right? Segregation.
Mm,
Like, you can't sit on this side of the auditorium. You can't ride on this part of the bus. Okay. And then we got smarter and we realized we have to change our policy. Now, this is going to be hard for your listeners and watchers to understand. Please divorce your politics from the next statement I'm about to make.
okay.
Please divorce your politics from whatever you think, love or hate. Divorce that from what I'm about to say, because Donald Trump made an executive order, and I'll come out and say I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but I did love this. I'm lucky because I can look at politics with a unbiased eye. Um, when he first came into office, he said, "All right, all you bureaucrats out there, for every policy that you want to make, you got to get rid of two."
I
That
heard
was
about that.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I think he did that was in 2017, right? And man, the what that meant all the way down, I still had a lot of connections in the maritime industry. I was on a board a committee down here in New Orleans, and that had our tiny little committee couldn't make any more. It came all the way down to this
Yeah,
tiny
I
little
actually I've never spoken with anyone who was personally affected by that, so I'm curious what
ta-da.
real life effect that had.
Yeah, so our committee was chartered by the U.S. Coast Guard, and because it was a charter that was permitted by the U.S. Coast Guard to discuss safety of navigation on the lower Mississippi River. And because of that, because it was a charter from the U.S. Coast Guard, we said, "Hey, we're no longer going to do this." They were like, "Okay, if you want to say that, then you got to get rid of two policies." We're like, "Wait, what?" They're like, "Yeah, it's the new rule. If you want to make a policy, you got to get rid of two." I was, wow. Okay, I kind of like this for the U.S. government.
So it actually forced you to go look through your policies and see what's outdated, what's no longer applicable, what's just taking up space,
Yeah, let's clean them
or
up.
as an actively bad idea.
Actively bad idea. Segregation. What? Why did we wear wigs in the UK court system until 2007? I mean, was there a reason? The original reason they wore wigs, horsehair wigs was, and I may be wrong here, but from what I understand, it was because, back in the day, there was no air conditioning. There was no HVAC in those courthouses, and they were a little bit steamy and stinky back in the day. So a summertime in Philadelphia, with the windows closed and no air conditioning, and hygiene wasn't what it is today. It was pretty stinky in that courtroom. And so one of the ways they got rid of some of the smell was by wearing powdered wigs that had perfume or scent in them. And so it kind of tamped down
I did
everybody
not know
getting
that
sick.
reasoning.
Yeah, yeah. So, but they kept the horsehair wigs until 2007. I mean,
Right.
come on. Find your knee-jerk reactions and
Uh-huh.
find your knee-jerk rules and get rid of them. Simplify, simplify, simplify.
It's
Back
funny.
to core values. Ben, come on. If we get the core values right and we really recruit on the core values, hey, stop. Don't even read the rest of this job solicitation unless you really truly are these things. And then you list your core values in a passionate, visualizing way. And then you say, if this is you, then read on. If it's not you, then don't read any further because you will be uncomfortable in this position. You will be uncomfortable in this company. But then you got to go further and reinforce that at every interview and
Right.
every step of the way. So tell them over and over again, hey, if you're not these things, you're not going to get along here and you'll be uncomfortable and there'll be friction, right? Hey, if you're not these things on day one, oh, on day one of work. Hey, remember when we told you about those core values back in the solicitation? And then you got interviewed 4 times, and every all 4 times they said core values, core values, core values. And now you're on day one. We want to show you these core values at work. We want to show you how serious we are about these core values. Yeah, you don't look, it doesn't take 5 hours to figure out how to get your automatic deposit set up. It doesn't take 5 hours to sit them in front of a computer. Next slide, next slide, next slide. No, win them over on day one by giving them the core, show them the core values at work. One of the security companies I work with has a security officer that worked in a apartment office building, and he found a satchel of cash. And he chased down the owner of the building, and who was leaving at the time. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Smith, I don't know where this came from or whose it is, but I'm giving it to you. I don't know what the heck's going on, but I don't know." And in there, it was like $37,334. And the only way they caught the person that was embezzling was the amount. Because it was the exact amount, 334, $37,334, they could trace that back to exactly where the deduction was made and arrest the right guy. So
Hmm.
that security company, on day one, every security officer that works for them goes out and meets that security officer who tells them that story. And then that night, they go home to their significant other and they're like, "I love this place, man. They took me out. I met the security officer who found this bag of cash, and because he didn't take any of the money out of it, they found out who the person that was stealing was, and I can't wait to go back to work the next day." Doesn't that sound better than, "What'd you do today on your first day, honey?" "Well, I did this training where I hit next slide, and I filled out my 401k form." No, win them over with the core values at the beginning so then they can exude, emit, and invoke those core values everywhere inside the company. That's what we need. We don't need policy if we have people that truly appreciate, get, and live those core values every day.
Right. Well, you've already answered. I mean, my next question, which was going to be how do we lead with values and core focus without
Yeah,
rather than policy, and it's put it front and center and front on the job description and in the
yeah,
interview process and on the first
yes,
day, and then continuing really
yeah,
through the whole management of your team. What happens if, okay, like we're nowhere near there. We're already over processed. We're already,
Yeah.
we already have a rule.
Mm.
It was examples like my daughter, she was in a parochial school and she had, like one day she like I don't know, I guess nobody wore scarves with it. Like one day she like wears a scarf or a choker or something, and like, the next day it's in the school handbook,
Oh
no
man, schools are
scarves.
great for that stuff,
And
right?
my other daughter went to camp, and she was like scared of going to camp. So we went out and got her a hamster right before camp. And so she brought it with her, this little thing with, but there's like, what a fourth grade sleepaway camp. So, forgot how old she was, fourth grade, fifth grade, something. And she gets there and there's
No
nothing in the handbook
hamsters.
that says that you can't have a pet in camp. But the next year there was a rule in the handbook that says, so they let her keep it, but the next year there was a rule. So
Yeah.
our greatest claim to fame is we've created more knee-jerk rules and policies
Oh,
than anybody else.
yeah.
That's our claim to
Yeah.
fame. But let's say you're already over processed. You're,
Yes.
you're in the wrong direction on this.
Yes.
What's, the picture you described is very inspiring, but it may seem like a
Yes.
million miles away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what can somebody who's nowhere
Sure.
near that right now, what's some initial things somebody could do?
Yeah. So, you know the old Chinese proverb, right? The best time to plant a tree,
50 years
25
ago?
years. Yeah,
Okay.
25 years ago. The next best time, right now, right? So stop making knee-jerk policies. Stop. Be a courageous, be fiercely courageous in your leadership. Go with your gut, man. If you really truly believe your core values and you're sharing those core values frequently, you're really implementing them in the business, not just putting them in a Dollar Tree $1 frame by the bathroom in the hallway. If you're really living them, then you can start cleaning up, right? So stop making bad policies, first of
Hmm.
all. Good, and let's kind of throw processes and policies in together, okay? Just for a second. Um, Good processes, this comes from the Netflix stuff we were talking about before we got on the air. Good processes from Netflix says it helps highly talented people get more done. Budgets. Those that truly believe your core values and are in it to win it because they're aligned with your core focus, where you want to go, your core target, and how you're going to get there, they're going to spend within their budget. Then we don't need the knee-jerk reaction of the leadership team approving every spend over, $200. I mean, that doesn't work. That's
Right.
not sustainable. So, highly talented people get more done. That's what we want good processes to do. Budgets, spend within your budgets. A bad process is a three-person sign off, right? The three, if you truly build your accountability chart in we talk accountability chart in EOS, which is really create the work that needs to be done to be successful. And if you can do that well and then create measurables that show that those people are doing that work, way less bad process is going to, there's not room for bad process to come into the market, come
Hmm.
into the company. um, 10 people interviewing one candidate, no, we don't need 10 interviews. We're maybe three, right? So then you got to do some cleanup, right? You got to do some cleanup, and this is something that's good. um, You need an employee handbook. You need a training manual, but they should be live and dynamic, just like your core key critical processes. If you if you really need a checklist for every single job that you do in the business, you probably don't have the right people doing the work.
Hmm.
So if you can really truly get people that share your core values, they really get it. They live those core values. Back to safety as an example. If you interview for and maintain safety as a core value, then you need less safety policy
Hmm.
because everybody's just doing it every day. The other thing that can help is then if people truly understand their job, they live your core values. Now it's time to clean up the mess that was left behind, right? So dig into the employee handbook, dig into the training manual, and clean those up to really align with your core values and your core critical key processes, the ones that you need that talk about handoffs from one department to another.
Right. That's awesome. Look, it's obviously we could go on, and I would love to hear some more stories, but I really appreciate everything you're sharing now. We'll share the information about your course for supervisors and about the Netflix deck. And it's also you said there was a Patrick Lencioni podcast that was very influential for you on this topic. So I'm going to share that too, because you shared that with me.
Yeah.
And so we'll put that in the show notes and everything. I just really appreciate you talking about this. It's such a fundamental topic, and I need to be reminded, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I really appreciate this.
Yeah, we're all on the road to mastery and continuous improvement. So all of us can use some help, including me. Can I take 10 seconds to give you a quote out of that Netflix deck?
Please.
Yeah. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the people to gather wood and then divide the work and give the orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea.
All right, then they're going to be running to find those things to do.
Yeah. So if you can paint a beautiful picture of the vast and endless sea, you don't have to give a bunch of orders how to do it. They'll figure it out. This is the whole concept of control versus context. Provide the context, not the control.
Right. And I see with the U.S. Navy and Merchant Marines background, I could see why you picked that quote. But anyway, thank you, Matt.
It's actually from the author of The Little Prince.
Nice. All right, I really appreciate this, Matt. Thank you.
Same, Ben. Really, always a joy to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, absolutely. And everybody else, we'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
You're listening to Win-Win, an entrepreneurial community with your host, Ben Wolf.